Bomber, Chapter 6, continuing with Part 3 from The Ride. Mike's captor, the German major who is with him in the back of the staff car, turns towards him. He ended with further German this time, and Mike could translate a little more. Turning towards him, balling his large fists as if ready to strike out against what he regarded as such unqualified evil that it came from hell itself, he pleaded, "Denken Sie un Himmel, willen a Kinder." As the lieutenant rather fingered his white collar and sank back into the horse spring hair seat, Mike made out, "For heaven's sake, think of the children." Relaxing for a moment, he turned to Mike, who had now finished his last cigarette, asking, "Do you have children, Airman? Little ones waiting for you at home, perhaps with your wife and away from the bombing?" Children, or Kinder, are a gift from God. I truly believe that. Even now in this war, to rid the world of satanic evils like homosexuals and women acting as if they were men. I don't want my son, Heinrich, to grow up in a world which communists, liberals, sexual deviants, pagan, and godless hordes emasculate for him. You see, that is what these people do to our young people. Together with the Jews and the socialists, they rob them of their true Germanic inheritance. They've been doing this since the 1930s and the Weimar Republic, since the Jews and the Bolsheviks stabbed German workers in the back, since our currency became worthless, since the Great Betrayal. He paused before adding, "Now we are fighting back and driving out these worthless scum, these rats, these sexual deviants from before our Christian Germanic people. As we march, we hold high not only the swastika, but the cross of Christ as well, in the name of which we conquer all evil." Mike had listened to the lieutenant as the hours ticked off the dashboard clock before the driver had returned the staff car, before the column had finally crossed ahead of them and the perimeter had been resecured and they were jolting forwards to their destination. Mike felt he had never known that before. It wasn't even fear of the enemy that he had been fighting. It wasn't fear of what might happen to him as a prisoner of war. That was something he didn't know. He feared being discovered for who he was. Yes, in the UK, the offence of sodomy carried a prison sentence. It was considered gross indecency, and it was always a terrible sin. But Lieutenant Bauer, he remembered the name meant farmer, would consider him bestial, subhuman, degenerate, as if he knew who Mike was and how he truly loved. What's more, it appeared that even God would consider him all these things as well. It was bad enough even when service personnel went queer bashing, as they called it, But here was a man willing to mutilate or even kill another human being because they were a homosexual. What's more, they were willing to do that as part of their Christian faith and their duty to fight against sin. As the vehicles finally stopped outside what looked like a guardroom or a blockhouse, Mike felt vulnerable and alone. The tailboard dropped on the grey truck in front of them with a clunk as its chains were released. Immediately, two trench-coated figures bundled Christoph to the ground. He landed like a dead weight, letting out a muffled groan. At the same moment, the lieutenant gestured to Mike to exit the staff car, reaching over him to push the leather-trimmed rear door open. Unfolding himself, Mike got out of the car. He shuffled toward Christoph, now supported by two SS men. He noticed fresh blood on the polished jackboots of one of these men as he held a massive Alsatian on a tight leash with the other hand. The SS man grinned and muttered to the other German, "Der verdammte Perverse, legte unsere Hilfe immer noch ab. Dummes kleines Mädchen. Lieutenant Bauer translated the soldier's words into perfect English as he approached the group. Hearing it, Mike recognized some familiar words and was already guessing at others. My comrade here is saying essentially that he doesn't understand why this damned pervert, this silly little girl, won't accept our help. Maybe you have some idea why, Airman. What will you do with him now? Mike asked rather than answering Bauer's question. Christoph opened his eyes. Moving his head, he looked directly at Mike. Sweat was dripping from his bloodied face. His lips were half closed, and his bloody ear looked as if it had been nearly wrenched off at its root. He whispered, "Hilf mir," just as he had done earlier that night, and Mike felt hopeless. Bauer gestured to the soldiers to drag their captive towards a large metal gate leading to an enclosed compound on which others in rags had begun to assemble. "We shall make an example of him, my decent British fellow." As the trio passed through the gate into the compound, the SS officer added, "You will be able to watch." The weight of those words hung heavily in the air, filling Mike with a sickening sense of dread.